To me, it felt like Kazuha flew kind of under the radar at his original release, and I pulled on him purely to extend my collection. I can't really say the same thing anymore, can I? According to my predictions, he will rerun in the second half of version 2.8, which will take place 9 to 12 weeks from now, depending on how long the delay of 2.7 will last. Should you get him though? He is the strongest character of the strongest element out there, so naturally yes, right? The answer to that is not as straightforward as you might think, as it depends on a few things such as what characters you already have, what weapons and artifacts are available, and so on. Before we go into detail, you might want to consider subscribing if you're looking for an account review or want to have an individual answer, as I will discuss these things on stream regularly. Let's start off with the most important thing. Do you like playing him, or do you like him in general? If so, you might want to get him without considering anything else. I think the most important thing is for you to enjoy playing the game, and you do so by enjoying who you are playing. For this reason, I don't play Bennett. I do not question his power, but I find his gameplay boring at best, so I don't bother playing him. Most would probably enjoy playing Kazuha though, as he has a fun gameplay loop which does not get boring over time, so I don't really see a problem with that. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Should you get Kazuha if you have Venti or Sucrose? I think it very much depends on your playstyle. Venti and Sucrose differ in that Sucrose is also able to suck in every enemy, no matter their size, whilst Venti can do the same just for the smaller enemies, however, this much longer. So you could say Venti is better for crowd control against older or smaller enemies, while Sucrose is better for the larger enemies and making big numbers appear on screen. In that regard, Kazuha is more like Sucrose, as he is also able to suck in every kind of enemy. However, he does so consistently only with his charged E. Unlike the other two, his burst does not knock up, but knocks back everyone. Another downside is that you are not able to see anything beyond your burst barrier. I personally like, however, how high your damage on both of these skills are, and how versatile you can use them. The timing and total amount of swirls by your burst is also the best of all three options in my opinion. Compared to the other two, I find it also much easier to get the element infused that I want. I personally find it hard to choose between these three characters though. In my opinion, everyone is more than strong enough to clear any content in the game. But everyone has his unique strengths in the Abyss. For example, I prefer Venti over Kazuha for about half of the whole Abyss, as these enemies get sucked in by Venti's burst, and I prefer the CC over a bit more damage provided by Kazuha. In general, I prefer Kazuha over Sucrose for the Abyss, as his E takes way less time to activate and he is able to dodge certain attacks by just being in mid-air. His cooldown is also lower, which makes it more enjoyable in my opinion. So for the Abyss, if you had to choose between the three, I would choose Venti and Kazuha if you can. Otherwise, Kazuha is probably the number one option. In my opinion, Kazuha is the best sub DPS in the game. You could make him into a main DPS, but his kit just screams sub DPS to me. So much so that I wouldn't even consider using him in any other way. With that in mind, let's look at his team compositions. It is really easy to use him in any team, even more so than any of the other two CC monsters mentioned before. Unlike Venti, all your characters will be able to attack the now bunched up enemies. Unlike Sucrose, you can do that often enough to keep their resistance reduced almost permanently. This makes him suit basically every team, which makes it very convenient. He works best in tandem with characters that do a lot of elemental and or AoE damage, like Ayaka or Raiden. He also works really well with a mono pyro or electro team. This works for Hydro and Cryo too, but in my opinion, with these it makes more sense to get either a freeze or zapper combo. When it comes to overcharged teams, however, I think Venti is better just because his vacuum power is much stronger. This shouldn't stop you from trying though. Getting to the most discussed part of Kazuha, the build. Depending on your available weapons and artifacts, your Kazuha can go from very strong to "this damage is insane and makes no sense, but I love it." There are two ways to build Kazuha: classic damage and crit based, or elemental mastery based. I personally recommend a hybrid build, but before you make your own choice, you first should understand how elemental mastery works. The damage you do with your swirls grows logarithmically with your elemental mastery, while your damage with attack scales more or less linearly. That means the benefit from elemental mastery gets lower the higher you go. For example, the difference between 0 and 100 elemental mastery makes about a 75% damage increase to your reactions, while the same 100 elemental mastery from 100 to 1100 generates only about a 35% damage increase. For that reason, I recommend going hybrid. So you get your early high damage increase from elemental mastery, but retain a fair amount of damage from your skills themselves, which has no influence on the amount of damage you do with your swirls, the consumption of an infused element. If you want a deeper analysis to the two builds, I recommend you this video here. As for the weapons choice, I think his signature weapon is by far the best, but all these on screen now work really well, or these here on occasion. Keep in mind that any damage you do with your skills is based on your base attack, which is only influenced by your weapon, so a high base damage is desired. As Kazuha is a generalist, you can also use almost every single artifact set in the game. Technically also the other element sets, but the benefits are questionable. The Anemo set is by far the best in class, as it reduces the resistance of the infused element, which is already something you do with your signature weapon, if you have it, so this works excellently. In case you don't have a set lying around, your typical sets like Gladiator, Shinamanawas and Noblesse all work really well. You could also try the Severed Faith, but based on my experience, recharge is not really an issue. If you're looking for a farming guide, check out this video right here, as it covers all the materials and the optimal way to farm what you need. You should still be able to get everything in time just before he reruns in the second half of 2.8. If you struggle with the Abyss, you might want to check out my stream next time I'm live, as I regularly do account reviews on stream. We actually have a couple of slots left for the next stream on Friday, so if you want your account reviewed, join my Discord and post some information on your account there. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe. This has been Minpact, and hopefully we see each other on stream next time. Bye bye.